And welcome to the Basket Cases podcast.
You did the Jamaican thing again, kind of.
I knew you were going to say it. I'm your host, Kevin Henderson. This is episode 16. With me is my co-host with the co-most, Zach Bozeman.
That's right.
What's up, y'all?
That's the name they gave me.
That's the name. Murder was the case that they gave me, and Zach was the name that they gave him.
And I'm sticking to it.
All right. So welcome to the episode 16. Thanks so much for being here. So, hey, if you haven't noticed, we got to our over 700th download this week. Whee! So, again, we just want to, throw shout-out thank yous to everybody listening. It's really cool that, just a couple of dudes talking some sports, working hard every week, can get some people enjoying some content every week. So thanks for listening. We got some downloads from like the UK and Finland and like some other places now. So shout out to the European countries. Thanks for listening to the Basket Cases. That's really cool.
Our brothers and sisters overseas.
That's right. Thanks for listening. We want to shout out the email and social media pages as usual. So make sure to email the show if you got a question or something to say. Email the show, basketcasesla@basketcasespodcast.com. We got an Instagram page. The handle on that is basket_cases_LA. And you can follow us on Twitter as well. The handle is @basketcasesLA. So we're an LA-based show, so
follow our tweets.
You get the titles there. Follow our tweets. Follow our tweets on Twitter.
Yes.
And hit us up on the web. We got a Facebook page. You can listen on YouTube. You can listen on the website, basketcasespodcast.com. We are all over the internet, so check it out. And again, thank you for listening. Obviously, you're not the person that needs to hear all these shout-outs, but tell your friends all those things. You're the one listening. So we got a big show today. We're going to talk some Lakers. The NBA is back after the All-Star break. So they unloaded a smorgasbord of great games in the last few days since the All-Star break.
A plethora.
Yeah, they had an extended break this year, and the games finally came back on Thursday. So we'll talk a lot of hoops today. A little Dodgers news. We got a signing, another pitcher in Dodgers land, so we'll talk about that. We've also got a Manny Pacquiao story that is a little controversial. Another guy just putting his foot in his mouth, but maybe not necessarily this time around. So we'll get into that story later. Also, your LA Rams have basically shaken up the entire pot with some cuts on their roster that were pretty shocking to a lot of people, considering some of their most popular players and biggest names on the roster got traded. Cut. So we'll talk about that. Peyton Manning's name continues to be in the spotlight because of his allegations of sexual assault and human growth hormone and all those things. So there's another little tidbit that we're going to get into about that as his reputation and it being in question continues to develop in the public spotlight.
What did you hear? He's actually a cocaine trafficker as well.
Oh, really? Is he? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know. He must have worked for Escobar or something.
He's Colombian and his birth certificate isn't even legit.
So there you go, Peyton Manning. Maybe not what you thought he was. Zach's got some insider information apparently.
I know.
You must go to Papa John's a lot. So anyway, we'll play a game later possibly. We got an NBA-based game. Do a little Strictly hip-hop. And a quick NHL story for you, and that will round out the show. So without further ado, what do you say we get right to it?
Let's do this.
So the Lakers just had an interesting game against the Bulls. They lost 126-115, but I was just excited to see D'Angelo Russell get a start and Lou Williams have his minutes reduced a little bit. The game was very up and down for the Lakers, I would say, with basically it seemed like they were down 7 to 10 points most of the game. And every time they would just take everything they had to get right back into it, tie the game, whatever. Then they'd be down 20, and then they'd cut it all the way to a 3-point game, and then they'd end up losing it. And it was just they ended up losing. But I thought that Julius Randle was continued to impress, just getting double doubles like a monster out there. D'Angelo Russell had 15 points and a few assists out there, 6 assists. Kobe, basically my favorite part of the whole night was just, again, Kobe got a really cool tribute in Chicago from the Bulls fans, and they put a video up on the board that was narrated by Pau Gasol, And so it was cool to see Kobe and Powell on the court just one last time, and that will be their final matchup together.
He's huge.
Pau Gasol is a tall guy. We got some pictures of Pau on the Basket Cases Instagram if you haven't checked it out yet, Zach.
Oh, man.
I know. It's pretty cool. He's humongous. I was right down there. I could see it with my own eyes.
Oh, wait, with your own eyes?
With my own eyes.
Oh.
So we're going to see some more minutes from the Lakers youngsters as the season winds down, and Kobe's probably going to lower his minutes slightly. They were saying Byron Scott and Mitch Kupchak were talking about Kobe earlier this week, and we'll get into some Mitch Kupchak comments about Byron Scott and some other things in a moment. But first, I wanted to recap the rest of the week from the Lakers. They played against the Spurs on Friday. They lost a pretty fun game to a Kawhi Leonard-less Spurs team, 119 to 113. A very competitive game, though. The Lakers, for some reason, have been able to compete with San Antonio this year. It's really weird because San Antonio typically just blows everybody out, and the Lakers have a knack for competing with them. Now, granted, there was no Kawhi Leonard, but the youngsters seem to have a good athletic ability to they use their athleticism really well against the Spurs. A lot of people like to discount the Spurs' chances going forward because of a team like the Thunder and the Warriors being just teams like the Warriors and the Thunder being just so much more athletic than they are, and that may have some merit to it because the Lakers seem to be able to compete with them by using their youth and their athleticism, and so anyway, it was a fun game to watch. Nonetheless, Lakers going out with some losses. But at least they're not getting blown out completely in all these games. We're getting a little more competition, which is what we've all been hoping and waiting for.
Higher scoring.
Yeah, Kobe had 25 in that game. Clarkson had 20. Larry Nance came back after his All-Star. You know how they shut Larry Nance down before the All-Star break, gave him a chance to rest his knee. He's looked decent in the last couple of games, looks strong. He says he feels great. His knee doesn't give him any pain right now, so that's good. Basically, the Lakers are just losing off of, youngster moves. They're turning the ball over. They're missing defensive rotations. They're giving up shots to guys that they shouldn't give up shots to in certain areas of the floor. Simple things like that. Obviously, the Bulls had a couple unexpected guys like Moore step up and play well, but that's what's been going on as far as the games are concerned. But more... probably a little more interesting to some people would be the general manager Mitch Kupchak's comments from last Wednesday. He was asked about Byron Scott and his future with the team, and basically Mitch, they tried to make a lot out of this on ESPN and in the radio and stuff like that, but I thought he handled it about as well as he could because a lot of people are calling for Byron Scott's job, and whether you think it's fair or not, and especially if you're the general manager, you've got to keep it very PC and smooth public. You got a public relations up, as they say.
Yeah, right.
And so he just basically said, here's his quote, he is under contract, and until or if that changes, we'll let you know. So the follow-up was he was asked if he was pleased with Scott's performance this year, and he said, once again, I don't want to get into a Byron discussion right now, so I'm not going to answer any more questions about Byron, because I'm concerned that one question will lead to another. If his status changes, I'll let you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Kupchak.
I plead the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Fifth. F-I-F.
F-I-F. Fifth.
Chappelle's Show, if you haven't seen that.
Get it if you ain't got it.
Yeah, plead the fifth.
Just buy them on DVD.
So what do you think about Mitch's comments there on Byron Scott? He's basically just not answering anything.
Yeah, he's not telling us anything.
But it's interesting because typically you get like a slight nod of confidence from your general manager generally when you're asked about the coach. But Mitch Kupchak just didn't want to say anything, which to me makes me think maybe they are actually having some discussions about his future with the team. I think that they want to maybe give him one more year just because
I would.
He's had so many injuries to deal with last year and things like that. Now with Kobe's retirement and giving Kobe so many minutes and just the way it's affected the entire roster and everybody's playing time and cohesion and all that type of stuff. I feel like it's a lot to ask of him to just have a great season this year, and I don't know what everybody expects from him. I mean, he's not the one playing the games on the floor.
Yeah.
I understand that people have been critical of how many minutes he's given D'Angelo and things like that. But it's basically just been the same formula as it was last year. It's a down year. We're going to basically finish out the season giving the young guys more time on the floor to develop. And basically we're just going to hope to have good competition and still lose so we can hopefully keep the draft pick. I mean, it seems pretty calculated to me. I don't know why everybody's so outraged by Byron. I think he's trying to teach the young kids how to be tough, how to be professionals, and how to be accountable.
Lakers aren't winning, so it's his fault.
Right. So basically, based on Mitch Kupchak's comments, I'm thinking they're having a dialogue as an organization. They're trying to decide if Byron deserves one more year or not. Probably. I think that in spite of the criticism he's getting, I think his tough love is probably good for the young guys, particularly D'Angelo Russell, who I think needs some tough love the most of everybody. I think Jordan Clarkson's fine. I think anybody could coach him because he's coachable, and I think he just is athletic and plays hard no matter what the circumstance. And D'Angelo's definitely got a little more personality to rein in, I think.
Yeah.
Julius Randle.
So much of that swag to him.
Yeah. And I think Julius Randle is still just kind of a puppy. He's so big. He's so athletic. He's so strong. And he's going to find his way out there on the court. He tends to pout a little bit and things like that, but he's 19 or 20 years old. He's going to be a beast out there. The way you can really tell with Julius is just the way all the other players on opposing teams talk about him in their post-game press conferences. They're like, oh, yeah, he's going to be a problem for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, the final things with the Lakers here, I wanted to just kind of run some names by you, Zach, and just kind of talk these out. But if Byron were to go, a lot of the names floating around are the former Bulls head coach, Tom Thibodeau. Also, people are talking about Luke Walton, obviously, considering he's been doing so well in the absence of Steve Kerr in the earlier part of the season with the Warriors. And then a lot of people are talking about Scott Brooks, the former Thunder head coach, because everybody thinks that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook want to play in L.A. together. And so people are saying, we'll bring back their former coach, Scott Brooks, and have him be on the Lakers. I just will go on the record and say my opinion on these coaches. I think Tom Thibodeau, based on the product he puts on the floor, I think he's a good coach. I think his teams play smart. I think they play hard. I think they play very good defense. And I think sometimes it leaves a little bit to be desired offensively. But overall, I think Tom Thibodeau's a good coach. My only concern with him is that he seemed to wear out his welcome in Chicago, and I know that he tends to play his players in practice pretty hard. He tends to practice his guys pretty tough. And Pat Riley used to do that, and the Lakers won championships with Pat Riley, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Your basketball players, you have to play hard in practice, big whoop. But I think he's a good coach. I think he's respected and would be good for the young players as well. I'm not saying that I want to get rid of Byron, but that's where I stand on Tom Thibodeau. Luke Walton, I think he'd be great anywhere. Actually, let me rephrase. I don't know if he'd be great anywhere. I think a big part of why he's so good with the Warriors is because they have a young team that relates to him. He's not an older guy. He's been in the league recently, but he knows what it takes to win. He's been coached by great coaches, Phil Jackson. He's played with Kobe. So he knows his stuff, but he'd have to have the ear of his team. And I think the Warriors are they're young and they're coachable, and they're there to have fun and be a team. And so I think that really allows Luke Walton's strengths to shine.
Totally. And who would have thunk that he was so much better of a coach than a basketball player?
Well,
in my opinion,
I think he would have been great, a much greater player if he had the athleticism to go with the mind. Because he was a smart player. Phil used to put him in the lineup when the ball would stick and things like that, because he'd get the offense moving and he'd put the guys in the right positions because he was a smart player. And as for Scott Brooks, here's what I think as far as Westbrook and Durant and coming to the Lakers and all that stuff. I think that if the Lakers were so fortunate to get KD or Westbrook, I think that you could ask them who they want to coach them, but I don't think that Scott Brooks is like the answer for why they would want to come to the Lakers. I don't think that you hire Scott Brooks and immediately those guys come over here and sign.
Right.
As for Scott Brooks, people keep crediting him for developing Kevin Durant and developing Russell Westbrook, but Byron Scott isn't developing D'Angelo Russell. And to me, that's just like, really, that's the difference. That's why those guys became great players, because Scott Brooks.
Right, all because of him, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the type of stuff that I hear in sports radio all the time that just makes me cringe. People just call for people's jobs, like, oh, fire this guy now and hire this guy now because he did this. It's like, do you really think that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook wouldn't have become who they are based on one coach? I mean, don't get me wrong. Coaches have great influence. But Scott Brooks, if you watch the way those players developed, that was individual games just progressing, and their offense still left things to be desired, just as it does now. And that's my biggest critique with the Thunder, is that in spite of how great Westbrook and Durant are, they're not able to play a style of basketball in the clutchest of moments consistently to the point where you feel confident that they're going to be able to get over the hump and win tight games late in the playoffs. Especially against a team like the Warriors. And, I mean, KD and Westbrook, I saw a stat today that it was like, I think it was Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. It was scoring duos in the NBA, averaging points, like the highest two players scoring average on a team for 500 minimum games played together. And the three tandems were Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and KD and Russell Westbrook. So as they're elite talents, but points are not wins, is what I'm trying to say. You need to get not individual points. I mean, the scoreboard is what matters, not your box score. So that's the part that I just worry about with the Thunder, and the reason why I don't think that Scott Brooks is the save the Lakers answer. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to immediately. I mean, X's and O's wise, I don't really think that Scotty Brooks has anything on Byron or vice versa. I don't think that either one of those guys are genius offensive coaches or anything to that extent. And so it really just comes down to what do the great players, who do they want to be coached by?
Give Byron another year.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a players' league. If you can get Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook, but they don't want Byron, then get somebody else. That's what I'm saying. I think that it's a stars league. It's a players' league. And whatever you need and have to do to get the talent to come to your city, that's what you do. Well,
the Lakers been the coaching position's been kind of a revolving door gig, huh?
The Lakers played their last game against the Spurs on Friday, and they put up a statistic, like a column of stats between Kobe and Tim Duncan, and the most polarizing stat of all of them to me was they said the number of head coaches that the two of them have had in their whole career.
Wow.
The answers: Tim Duncan, 1. Kobe, 10.
Wow.
And if you think about it, it's crazy. You go back to like Bernie Bickerstaff in between when all the firings were going on, Mike D'Antoni, Mike Brown, Phil Jackson, Byron Scott. I mean, there's been a ton of them, and you realize, man, the fact that Kobe's been able to win so consistently.
Tim Duncan's been coached by Popovich
for his entire career. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was saying Kobe, but the fact that Tim Duncan's been able to win so consistently is a testament to how stable the organization has been. And Kobe's won all of his championships, obviously, with Phil Jackson coached teams. So coaching is a big deal, but the thing is, the Lakers roster. I mean, it's all about team cohesion, roster, coach. Everything has to be just right to win at the highest level. So that kind of just wraps up our coaching debate with the Lakers and stuff. I think it's absurd when people keep calling for Byron Scott's job like he's just done the worst job in the world. It's clear, like we've been saying on this show from day one, that the Lakers were going to let Kobe do whatever he wanted this year.
Yeah.
Byron, Mitch, Jeannie, Jim, everybody. So that's the way it is. And given those circumstances and the fact that he knows and is privy to information about those youngsters that we're not, like their attitudes, the things they say when the cameras aren't rolling, how they respond in timeouts, huddles, practices. You know what I mean? Like, there might be a reason why he's playing 26 minutes a game instead of 30, but they're saying, hey, going down the stretch, the youngsters are going to get more minutes.
Oh, yeah. Look forward to seeing that.
Yeah. So let's move around the league. What do you say? So The Warriors, this is probably the biggest story of the entire week in basketball. The Warriors lost a game. Their first game out of the All-Star break was a loss to the Blazers, and it wasn't even close. 137 to 105.
Smoked them.
Damian Lillard was filthy on them. He scored 51 points in the win. The Blazers played up-tempo basketball. They got Curry in foul trouble. They did what everybody says you got to do against the Warriors. You got to make Steph play defense, and McCollum and Curry McCollum and Lillard are the guys to do it, two attacking guards, and it made a difference. Draymond Green was throwing hissy fits all night long. The Warriors couldn't hit shots, and the Blazers' energy was incredible, and it got them great transition buckets. And Damian Lillard was the first player since Jordan in 1996 to have 50-plus points, 6-plus steals, and shoot 64% from the field. That's a statistic right there. That was incredible. Wow. Damian Lillard was just balling, and he continues to show up everybody for getting slighted and not becoming an all-star, like our homie Aaron said on an episode a few weeks ago, how he thought Lillard got slighted. And the Blazers won again today, and they're continuing to rally and make their push for the playoffs. What else do we have here? The Warriors then followed it up with a win on Saturday night against the Clippers, 115 to 112. Now, this game was interesting because the Warriors seemingly had the game all completely in hand, and then all of a sudden the Clippers went on a 13-0 run in 94 seconds with just about 2 minutes to go or so. But that 94 seconds, they cut it all the way to a 3-point game and had a shot at the win, at the tie, but ended up missing it on a rushed late shot.
Can't be rushing.
But again, early the game was a little more competitive. Chris Paul was able to get Steph Curry into some foul trouble. And the Clippers battled, but the Warriors are now 3-0 versus the Clippers this season ultimately. The Warriors still have not lost 2 games in a row all year, which isn't remarkable. I don't think any team has ever done that before, gone a whole season without losing 2 in a row, so we'll see if they can keep that up. The Cavs... Sorry, go ahead. What?
Oh, no, I was just going to comment on how sick that is.
It's crazy, Not 2 games in an entire season. That's never been done.
Wow.
The Cavs beat the Bulls easily on Thursday, 106 to 95. It wasn't that close. And then they followed it up with a great performance against the Thunder on Sunday, 115 to 92. So the Cavs have just been rolling in spite of some injuries. Shumpert has a sore shoulder. Mo Williams has a sore knee and might have to go see the doctor because they got to figure out what's going on with him. Kyrie Irving left the game in, I think, the second quarter. He had flu-like symptoms is what they were calling it.
Puking all over the court and such.
Fortunately, we didn't have to see that. But one thing I will say, like if the Thunder were to be so lucky and get past the Warriors, which I don't see happening, when they matched up against the Cavs today, they just looked small to me. The Cavs looked way bigger than the Thunder most of the game. They just had bigger bodies out there. Kevin Love had a good game. He had lots of post touches and free throws, and they just basically blew the Thunder out. So that was the fun game. A couple good matchups coming out of the All-Star break. They led off the week with the Clippers handling the Spurs earlier in the week too. Again, the Spurs were without Kawhi Leonard, and the Clippers handled them 105 to 86, and that was basically the Clippers' best win of the year because they haven't beaten any good teams really.
Yeah, by 30 points too.
Yeah, they dominated. But it's halftime.
1. Hey, yo, it's halftime.
That's right, it's halftime, everybody. So we've been going on and on and on about basketball. What do you say we break it up for a minute?
On my last comment too, I meant to say 20 points.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a 30-point game.
Yeah, it was 20 or 19.
Correction and retraction.
Bad math.
So it's halftime. If you're new to the show or if you're a return listener, welcome and thank you. But if you're new to the show, halftime is an opportunity that we like to take to talk a little bit about something else besides sports. Do some current events, some social issues, whatever we're feeling.
Horoscopes.
No horoscopes on the basket cases. If you know me, that ain't my style. Just ain't my style.
Kevin's a Cancer and I'm an Aries.
Zach's filling the time while I try to get our halftime content together. So it's halftime, and I wanted to start off with this Apple versus the federal government thing that's going on. Zach, have you heard about this?
Nope.
So the government has the cell phone of some of the people that were involved in the San Bernardino terrorist attack, and they basically have asked Apple to create what they call a back door that will allow them to basically, using several password, they have to try basically really hard, but the thing is, if Apple creates this ability for them to do it, then they will be able to get into the phone and potentially, if there's any information in there, to prevent a future terrorist attack or find out about the last one or whatever. Now, it seems like, oh, okay, well then just, go ahead and help them out, Apple. But Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, had other things on his mind with it, and I read the whole letter and I thought it was amazing. So it's basically a message to their customers. It's on Apple's website. You can go check it out. It came out on February 16th. And I'll just read a couple points from it. It says, the United States government has demanded that Apple take an unprecedented step which threatens the security of our customers. We oppose this order, which has implications far beyond the legal case at hand. This moment calls for public discussion, and we want our customers and people around the country to understand what is at stake. So it goes into things about encryption and how they sympathize with the case, but this is bigger than that. And, the threat to everyone's data security if they do create this back door, and also that it sets a dangerous precedent. And basically the analogy they give was along the lines of, if it would be like creating a master key, like in the physical world, it would be like creating a master key that could just open up any door.
Yeah.
And that was that's basically what them developing this ability to go into the Apple iOS platform or whatever. That's what it would do, because once it's created, you can't uncreate it, and there's no way to ensure that this is the only time that the government uses this, and the government has the only hands that it stays in. So they basically just said, no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And
straight up.
I thought
It's a bad idea.
I think it's a bad idea too. I think there's too much at stake. You have to look at it both sides. Sure, do we want terrorism to happen? Of course not. Do we want to know everything we can? Of course we do. But we're talking about an isolated small incident in San Bernardino that I don't know to have affiliation with. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about here. But just, I think the letter by Apple, if you go read it, you'll understand what we're talking about here. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, wrote an interesting opinion piece on it as well, and it showed up in the Huffington Post, and it was from one of his websites as well, where it was initially published. But he basically wanted to give Apple a shout out and standing ovation, and say, hey, this was the right way to go. This is a terribly scary precedent, and it would set up a very slippery slope to go down if we were to do this. And then he offered a suggestion that basically said, hey, well, if you ever wanted to do something like this, that these conditions would have to be met in order to try to break into a phone like that. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on the issue, Zach? Any sort of inclination towards the government wanting the knowledge and Apple to do that?
Yeah.
Donald Trump sure demanded that Apple should comply.
Whatever. It's like 1984. That book. Did you read that book?
No.
But anyway.
I don't read books.
That's right. I don't agree with it because it's a privacy issue, of course, and it's not going to stop terrorism. If they think it's going to prevent that, then they're stupid. And shit happens anyway. Excuse me, but this is a parental advisory show, and not to be insensitive to any family members who suffered tragedies like this. But it's like overkill on trying to solve a problem that's never going to go away.
Well, I think that's one angle to take, and I agree with you for the most part, but I think even more so than that, it's just about the government's reach into something that is so much bigger than they're acknowledging. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, just do it this one time.
For terrorism.
Yeah,
right.
It's
Then
like,
then why don't you just make one thing that breaks after you use it once or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
So
not breaks, but deactivates or something.
So anyway, I thought it was a really fascinating story because you don't see things like this happen very often. They were trying to, I forgot, I didn't write down the name of the the act or whatever it is, but there's some sort of act that basically allows for anything that is not in the law. It's like a bypass act that has been used as precedent in the past or something, and so that's what they're trying to use as like this one-time deal or whatever. Read about it. I don't want to get too far into it because it's a sports show, but I thought it was a really cool story. So read
I'm definitely interested.
read the Tim Cook letter on Apple's website, read Mark Cuban's comments, and make your own opinion.
Yeah.
So the Philadelphia police sent out a tweet this week regarding our friend Kanye. You know how he said, Kanye West said that he was $53 million in debt or something last week?
Mm-hmm.
So the tweet from the from the Philadelphia police was to Kanye, and here's what it said. "We are hiring at Kanye West. Starting salary of $47,920. You could be debt-free by the year 3122." And they posted a picture, and they had superimposed Kanye's head on one of the officers, and I thought that was one of the best tweets ever. It was basically the police just saying, "Hey, Kanye, shut up."
Clowning on him.
I said, shut up!
Shut up. Kanye sucks.
Yeah. I agree with you. So there's a company in New York that makes umbrellas, and this is from the New York Post, and John Byrne wrote the article here, John Byrne wrote the article here, and it's about the Davik Alert umbrella. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. D-A-V-E-K, Davik. So this umbrella is like a smart umbrella that syncs to your phone so that you won't forget it. It's a 9-person New York company, and basically they've been making umbrellas since like 2009. They've sold 100,000, but this new Alert umbrella is their newest product. It's going to be $125, and it alerts you on like a free iPhone app if you get with 30 feet away from your umbrella. So I just thought, we don't have to worry about umbrellas really in Southern California too often. But if there was something that your smartphone could remind you to not forget, what would it be, Zach?
Well, that's a good question. My shades.
Nice. You forget your sunglasses a lot. That's actually a really good answer. I've left some sunglasses at a restaurant before, and they didn't find them, so some busboy out there has got some nice shades on, some nice pair of Oakleys.
Yep, I lost a pair in San Francisco. A nice pair of Ray-Bans. But, you need that in sunny SoCal. Can't be having, no shades. So I think it'd be a lot more practical for this area than an umbrella, but that's pretty cool that the umbrella thing is happening.
Yeah.
But if someone gave me that as a gift, I'd be like,
Thanks.
thank you. I'm going to use it.
I wonder how much this sells for on eBay.
I'll use it twice a year. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I certainly wouldn't have time to download the app.
I don't even own a gun, let alone miniguns that would necessitate an entire rack. Wayne's World? Anybody?
Anyone? So Steve Martin did a brief stand-up routine.
I love that guy.
Opening for, don't we all? Opening for Jerry Seinfeld at New York's Beacon Theater the other night. And he hasn't done stand-up in over 35 years.
Wow.
So he just did a brief stint, basically, because Jerry Seinfeld kind of tricked him into doing it or whatever. So it got me to thinking, if you could see one person perform in either a stand-up setting or something like that doesn't do it anymore, or somebody that hasn't done it in a long time,
Dead or alive?
Sure, why not?
Bill Hicks, easy.
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I
Nobody has his kind of social commentary and his opinions on drugs, and not that that's not why I like him. He's just got he's like Louis C.K. He hits really well on those touchy subjects,
right?
And he makes you he can change people's minds with his points, I feel like.
Yeah, Bill Hicks is a funny guy.
Yeah, he's loud and animated, and
yeah, he has a lot of angst in his delivery. I feel like he's been thinking about this stuff for a long time. If you ever seen his stand up, it's pretty powerful. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's frustrated with the way things are, like George Carlin in his old age when he.
I frustrate with my I frustrate. I can't talk tonight for some reason. Apologies, everyone. I struggle with my answer because I want to say Eddie Murphy, because
It's a good one.
Because his stand-up from back in the 80s is just some of the funniest stuff I've ever heard said ever. But at the same time, I wonder, like, would he be funny if he went on stage anymore? Like, you hear him nowadays in interviews and stuff like that, and he just doesn't seem to me like the same testosterone-filled angst, young, on top of the world guy anymore.
Yeah.
So, but if he could do it, I'd love to see Eddie Murphy come back. I'd also like George Carlin, like you said. That'd be another good one.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah, lots of good stand-up comedians.
I got one. Lenny Bruce, from back in the day. He's basically paved the way for all those guys. Right
on. And then finally for halftime here, we got a story about coffee and your liver. So coffee has been linked, the drinking of coffee has been linked to a lower risk for liver cirrhosis, which is basically a condition that has no cure, and it's caused, from several different things, either diabetes or obesity, overindulging in food or alcohol, or hepatitis. So your liver is obviously one of your most important internal organs, and the study was done, and basically what they found was an additional 2 cups of coffee drank per day and resulted in a 44% lower risk for cirrhosis. And this was done at the Southampton University in the UK by Dr. Oliver Kennedy. And he said that coffee is a complex mixture containing hundreds of chemical compounds, and it is unknown which of these is responsible for protecting the liver. So they did the study, they found out it protects your liver, but they don't know what element of coffee actually did it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And obviously they said it doesn't, account for complete, abuse to your body, blah, blah, blah. But it just got me thinking, are you a coffee drinker? You a big coffee drinker, Zach? Do you like coffee a lot?
I do. I mean, it kind of upsets my stomach if I drink too much, but I don't even drink it on the daily anymore like I used to. I used to have like a cup a day, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Now I'll have a cup probably every couple days, every few days. I like tea a lot.
Yeah, well, the other thing that they warned you was, like, it doesn't mean you can put cream and sugar and have all the caramel and all, They're like, no, this is about the properties of actual coffee, not all the Starbucks stuff.
Yeah, like I drink my coffee black pretty much exclusively.
Yeah,
but
that's what I thought of you. I was like, well, Zach drinks black coffee usually.
Yeah, drinking black coffee, stare at the wall. Black Flag fans out there. But anyway, I had an almond latte yesterday, and it was delicious.
Right on. I like coffee a lot, but I don't drink caffeinated coffee anymore. So if caffeine is the element that saves my liver, then it ain't doing me no good.
Then you are...
Yeah. So that's all I've got for halftime. You got anything you want to get off your chest before we move on to some more sports? Not a thing?
No.
Make up your mind.
No, I'm good.
Then we will move on.
Moving on.
So let's get back into the NBA. Where was I? I was talking about the Thunder and the Clippers. So the Clippers got that nice win against the Spurs, although, like I said, no Kawhi Leonard. The Thunder blew a late lead against the Pacers the other night, and they ended up losing to Paul George and Monte Ellis 101-98. Paul George finished with 22 points and 10 assists. Monte Ellis had 27, and they were both great. Westbrook had 23 points and 18 assists, which is, like we were talking about at the top of the show, incredible numbers. Kevin Durant with 31 points and 8 rebounds. Cantor had 13. Ibaka had 12. But it just wasn't enough. It's just too much KD and Westbrook, I feel like, to be a rounded enough team when the going gets tough. And the Pacers put the clamps down on them at the end there, and they took the game away. So that's what happened. So we'll see with OKC. They got a couple losses coming out of the All-Star break. Everybody's all over Durant and Westbrook talking about how they're the two of the top 5 players in the league. And I can't argue that they are, but they need to start getting their team to play a better style of basketball if they're going to compete with the Warriors like everybody says and thinks they're going to.
Get the team involved.
I don't think that they're... I mean, maybe they will, but I just don't see it. I don't think that they play smart enough ball. Let's get into the trades. A lot of trades happened. The NBA trade deadline finally passed as the season got back underway after the All-Star break. The Clippers probably rocked the boat the most with their acquisition of Jeff Green from the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for Lance Stevenson and a future first-round pick. Some people like the trade. Some people think it's a little overrated trade. I think Jeff Green is a solid player. He's like one standard deviation beneath an all-star. You know what I mean? He's not quite on that level where he's consistent every night, but he has ability and he's a decent player. Good size, good athleticism, can knock down a shot. I think the real help is going to be when he has to guard guys like Kawhi Leonard or Harrison Barnes. That's where the Clippers are going to need some help because Paul Pierce is not going to be able to keep up at that position, and they haven't really gotten anything from Lance Stevenson all year, so that's why they traded him away. So I think it's a good move for the Clippers, not a great move. I don't think it puts them totally over the top, but I think it helps them and it makes it a little more interesting as we go down the stretch, and hopefully Blake, and we'll see how Blake Griffin plays with him when Blake comes back. There's a lot of things up in the air with the Clippers right now. The other big trade was Tobias Harris, who's been averaging 13.7 points and 7 rebounds a game this season. Got traded to the Pistons from the Magic. Orlando gets Brandon Jennings and Ersan Ilyasova, but the Magic ended up winning on Friday in overtime versus the Mavericks, and the Pistons lost badly to Washington on Friday. So their trades didn't work immediately, but we'll see as it goes forward. I know a lot of people like Tobias Harris and are picking the Pistons to make a nice run now as the season winds down. The Cavs traded for Channing Frye, but he's yet to play with the team. They got him from Orlando, and this is the big news for Cleveland fans. They traded Anderson Varejao and a protected future first round to the Blazers in exchange for a second round pick. And then they traded a second-round pick and guard Jared Cunningham to the Magic for Channing Frye. And now the news is that Anderson Varejao may sign with the Golden State Warriors. So that would be kind of interesting if you're a Cleveland fan, and you're lucky enough to make it to the finals, which you probably will, to see your boy Anderson Varejao and him be going against you for that title that you want so badly. But that's obviously looking out into the future, and a lot of things would have to line up just right for that to happen. But I know Cavs fans are sad to see Anderson Varejao not in their uniform anymore. The Thunder also made a trade, and they got Randy Foye from Denver for DJ Augustine, Steve Novak, and 2 2016 second-round picks. And it basically saves the Thunder just under $10 million, and they get a good player in Randy Foye. I got to watch Randy with the Clippers back in the day. Solid player. I think that if he gets some minutes, he can kind of help out where Dion Waiters lacks, in my opinion. Just with a little less, basically klutziness. I think that Dion Waiters is just a little klutzy. It's not the nicest thing to say about a guy, but I just don't trust Dion Waiters. He had a play in transition today where he was on the break, he had a wide open layup, just bobbled the ball and traveled, and it's just like,
derp, derp.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. He has moments where you think, oh, Dion Waiters is sick, and then he's just not.
Then he mucks it up.
Yeah. The Suns traded Markieff Morris to Washington for DeJuan Blair, Chris Humphries, and a 2016 protected first-round pick. So I know Washington's happy to get Markieff.
Chicken de Juan.
De Juan. And the Bulls finally traded Kirk Heinrich to the Hawks for a second-round pick from the Jazz and Justin Holiday from Atlanta. And Shelvin Mack, the old vet, goes to the Jazz. So that is basically all the trades that happened in the NBA. Or at least all the ones that I knew about.
Right on.
Right on.
Old school commerce.
So we're gonna
fake your left and go right.
And we're gonna go over to baseball.
All right.
You thought I was gonna go into some more basketball.
Straight down the lane.
So the Dodgers signed a right-handed reliever, Luis Coleman, for 1 year from the Royals to a $750,000
Money ain't a thing.
1 year deal. So basically, have you noticed a theme this entire summer? The Dodgers keep signing pitchers.
Yep.
So everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, we lost Zach Greinke, we lost all the pitchers." Well, they've been signing a lot of arms this offseason. So let's hope that some of these guys can produce. Because if you're a Dodger fan like me, you're sick of coming up short every year.
Stop sucking.
Alana Rizzo, she covers the Dodgers. She's like their beat writer, and
We like her.
Yeah, we like her. But she had a tweet that she put out this week that I thought was pretty cool. The Dodgers' new manager, Dave Roberts, I guess he's been seeking advice as he inherits his first managerial position. And so he consulted with Steve Kerr, Pete Carroll, Terry Francona, and Mark Shapiro, among others. And I just thought that was pretty cool that he's going to some of the best and trying to get any sort of tools for his belt before he embarks on a pretty important and powerful position, being the Dodgers manager.
Man stuff.
Yeah. So that's your little Dodger update. So what do you... let me think here. Let me think. I think that we should do a little Strictly Hip Hop real quick.
I'm down.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Strict.
After Strictly Hip Hop, we'll get into the Manny Pacquiao story.
Manny Pacquiao. Who?
Pack a what?
Pacquiao.
All right, so over the weekend, I got into a discussion with one of my buddies, and it was about hip hop, and it was about like East Coast, West Coast. And so I started talking, and I was just kind of saying, generally speaking, I'm more of an East Coast hip hop kind of guy. Doesn't mean there aren't some great West Coast acts that I love, and there are. Listen to the beat beneath, as a reference.
Oh, yeah.
I love Cypress Hill and things like that. However, I did argue that I just liked East Coast better. I said that the beats were a little harder, a little angrier, and a little nastier. And I just thought that there were more great MCs coming out of the East. And the guy I was speaking with disagreed with me, and he emphasized like a Bay Area underground scene from back in the day that I'm not really familiar with. So I'm gonna have to hear some more artists and form my own opinion. Because for him to say that the East Coast is not as hardcore as the West Coast Bay Area stuff, that kind of perked my interest.
Hip hop came from the East Coast.
Well, so
South Bronx.
Like I said,
South Bronx.
So anyway, I'll have to listen to some stuff. But for now, until I hear this stuff, my opinion stays where it is. I'm more of an East Coast guy. So I wanted to ask, are you, Zach, more of an East Coast, West Coast guy?
East Coast.
East Coast?
Big time.
One thing I do like is on Nas's second record, how he has Dr. Dre on, and they go, man, everybody talking about this East Coast, West Coast. Man, forget that, man. Let's get paid.
Yeah.
To me, I like their mentality on it. Just make music.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's great stuff out of the West Coast. I mean, I love like West Side Connection. I love Cypress Hill. But the thing about Cypress Hill though is DJ Muggs is a New York guy, right?
They sound more like an East Coast.
Yeah,
group
musically their old school stuff is a little more East Coast sounding, so maybe that's why I like it. But anyway, so it's not much of a debate. It would be fun if you said, "Oh no, Kev, you're crazy. I like West Coast, and we can chop it up for like hours."
Yeah, right.
But I'm more of an East Coast guy just for the above aforementioned reasons. I just feel like the beats are nastier. There's more great MCs. Like you said, it's kind of like the breeding ground for, the genre.
Definitely is. It's kind of like more of a anything goes mentality, where I feel like on the West Coast, because of the way things happened, it kind of comes with it G-funk kind of vibe. It's got more the old school 70s funk samples, which is awesome too, but I feel like East Coast is just, East Coast is grittier.
I'm with you. All right, so that's all we got for Strictly Hip Hop. We'll get into more Strictly Hip Hop on upcoming episodes. But in the meantime, let's go back to the Manny Pacquiao story.
And how he hates gay people because of his religion.
Yes, that's the story.
Yes.
All right, so we'll move on from there. So Manny Pacquiao is running for office, and so he's the story here is from Mark Hinog from SB Nation, and it says that hours after getting dropped by Nike for anti-gay comments he made. So he made some anti-gay comments as he was running for office in his homeland, and Nike basically dropped his endorsement.
Good.
But right after that, Manny Pacquiao published an Instagram post that quoted several Bible verses that referenced more anti-gay sentiment. And then, of course, he then deleted it afterwards, because that's what you do. You do something and then you delete it. So anyway, he put this is from, I'm not going to read that one, but his quotes were on a Monday during a television appearance, and he said, if men mate with men and women mate with women, they are worse than animals. So that was his quote. And then he apologized later with the whole like, oh, I'm sorry if you didn't like what I said, but I still said it apology. He said, I'm sorry for hurting people by comparing homosexuals to animals. Please forgive me for those I've hurt. I still stand on my belief that I'm against same-sex marriage because of what the Bible says, but I'm not condemning LGBT. I love you all with the love of the Lord. God bless you all, and I'm praying for you. So on Wednesday, Nike put out a statement announcing the end of their relationship, saying Pacquiao's comments were abhorrent. And they basically said that they have a long history of supporting the LGBT community. And on Thursday, Pacquiao told reporters that he respects Nike's decision. He said, I'm not really bothered by the controversy. I'm happier because I'm telling the truth. It's worse if we hide the truth. I'm happier because a lot of people were alarmed by the truth. So basically he said, I'm sorry that you didn't like what I had to say, but it's the truth, so deal with it. So Nike is a pretty... good sponsor to have on your side.
That's not one you want to lose, no.
But I guess if you're a boxer and you got hundreds of $1 million, you could just say that type of stuff. And I guess that's the way I guess the people in his country are very conservative in that light, and it probably helped them get some votes. I mean, politicians in our country even, you have to be like a Christian or you're not going to win the election. You know what I mean? It's like you don't necessarily have to really be, but you got to play one on TV.
Right.
So.
Oh, man.
Politics and religion. It's a crazy topic that we'll avoid on this show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't even get me started.
Yeah, let's not
show to that.
Let's not get into that. We're not gonna change anybody's mind anyway. That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, we don't want to.
But anyway, Manny Pacquiao, he's made his money. He's just saying what he wants to say, and they love him over there anyway. And he is a humanitarian, and he's done a lot for his country. So anyway, that's the Manny Pacquiao story. So another guy who's had his name in a lot of controversies and recently would be one Peyton Manning.
Who?
Who's that? So
that guy.
So in light of the sexual assault allegations from back in his Tennessee days or whatever, there's a women's group that basically wants all of his sponsors to drop him. I got this from Dennis Slatery of the New York Daily News. It says the group Ultraviolet issued a statement Tuesday calling on companies including Nationwide Insurance and Papa John's Pizza to shed the two-time Super Bowl winning star from their rosters in the wake of a lawsuit filed last week against the University of Tennessee, naming Manning as part of an ongoing culture of sexual harassment on the school's campus. The group said when institutions like the University of Tennessee tacitly condone violence against women by ignoring cases of sexual assault by student athletes, it perpetuates a dangerous culture of violence that ultimately hurts women everywhere. That was from Nita Chowdhury. She's the co-founder of Ultraviolet. And she said, Nationwide Insurance and Papa John's Pizza must show their customers that they will never stand for sexual violence and suspend the relationship with Manning pending further investigation.
That's just going to keep these issues going, though. It's like the whole, rather than be like, okay, the guy made a mistake in the past. Is he out raping women nowadays? No, I don't think so. But something happened in the past. Why do we have to demonize the guy for it and then let's make an awareness group for everything. You know what I mean? Let's raise awareness. It's like we're all aware, but part of moving on and changing culture is to freaking...
Well, here's the thing. He owns 20-something Papa John's restaurants, so I don't think that Papa John's is going to do anything to Peyton Manning. He got a kiss from Papa John's on the cheek after winning the Super Bowl.
You called him Papa John's.
Yeah.
Papa John's.
Papa John's.
My man Papa John's.
That's what I just call him because I don't really care. He's just the annoying guy from the commercials. I think that... I don't necessarily know if dropping sponsors it's tough. It's a tough thing because think about when the Clippers had their owner Donald Sterling making all those comments about blacks and don't have blacks at my games and all that type of stuff, and basically all the sponsors were trying to decide if they wanted to stay sponsoring the Clippers, and then ultimately Adam Silver and the NBA kicked Donald Sterling out of the league, and then the team got to be taken over by a non-racist owner, and round and round we go. But sponsorship is a big thing because that's what makes all the people and sponsorships make the whole thing go around. So I think that their point is simply that I think the reason why they go after somebody like Peyton Manning is because it gives them a chance to get somebody like me and you to talk about it right now. No matter what we say, it's bringing light to these issues, which women need to have vocalized at a grander scale, I feel like, because stuff like this continues to happen.
Exactly.
And if there's a culture of it going on at a university, then I think that that's why they like to take the opportunity to use somebody who's got a big name and bring light to it in the smaller sector like the school. So I know where you're coming from, and you say, oh, well, they're just getting their panties in a bunch, or forgive the pun or whatever, not the pun, but the metaphor there. But just like they're getting so uptight about something that you're not going to make a difference. He's just a dude. He's playing football. This was a long time ago, and
choose your battles.
Yeah, and I hear all that, but that's what I'm saying is that they have chosen their battles. It's not that they're going to win the battle. It's that they're going to get people to talk about the battle. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is going on here. So, like Peyton Manning or not, whether however you feel about the women's group and calling out and companies that endorse athletes that make mistakes.
Years and years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. There's a ton of athletes. I mean, I'm pretty sure Adrian Peterson still gets free whatever shoes he's wearing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he, beat his kid with switches until he was bleeding from his genitals. So, you know what I mean? What I'm saying is just, it's really easy to just say, oh, drop him. But the sponsors, it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? Like these athletes are so protected, and they're above all the little people laws and rules and things that we all have to play by.
Yeah.
That I don't think that they expect Nationwide and Papa John's to really drop Peyton Manning, but I think that it's an opportunity for them to get their voice heard and get their message out there that, hey, all this stuff is wrong, and it keeps happening in the NFL. Even if this is a 20-year-old story, there are several other stories that are not 20 years old about guys, doing the wrong thing and their behavior with their significant others and stuff like that in the league. So anyway, that's where I stand on it. I think that they're just trying to get heard.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Good for them.
So anyway, that's the Peyton Manning story. I think I'm gonna save the game for another time, just because we're already getting close to the end of the show here, and I don't want to do another game that I feel like will be better played with a different contestant.
Yeah, with not me. Mucking it all up and being horrible.
So what else do we have here? We got the LA Rams. So the Rams cut some of their players, and this was a big story. I got this from Nick Wagner on ESPN. It says that they're not only moving to Los Angeles, but they're moving on from 3 veteran mainstays in the process. So the team announced the release of defensive end Chris Long, middle linebacker James Laurinaitis, and tight end Jared Cook on Friday. So the Rams are going to basically save. What does it all come down to?
Money ain't a thing.
They're going to save $24 million in salary cap space on this move. It's crazy to think that, Laurinaitis and Long and those guys and Cook are going to be gone, because they're all pretty big names for the Rams. But I think that's just the nature of the business. I think in the NFL, because it's such a brute strength and force game that is basically played by the minds of the coaches, with the players just out there executing. Don't get me wrong, there's some guys who have special talent, but
hit that guy.
Yeah,
you hit that guy.
I think that they just try to find any sort of cost-cutting measure that they can, because they consider a lot of the players just replaceable. And I think that this goes to show you just that. But I do wonder about the chemistry and the cohesion in the locker room leadership and things like that, because Chris Long, having a dad that played in the NFL and things like that, was very well respected for his leadership abilities and taking that. They've had the youngest team in the league for like the last several years, and I think they're going to again have the youngest team in the league this coming season. So I think, how often do you see the youngest team win at any level in hockey, football, baseball, basketball? You usually need a good mix of veterans and younger players and good leadership. So that's where I like to come out on this particular move as far as concern and things like that. Not because of their physical ability, although I do think that those guys are good players. And, the stats say as much. Long had between 2010 and 2013, Long had 41 and a half sacks, which was fifth among defensive linemen. Things like that. But the last couple of years, his numbers were a little down. Production business, and that's just basically what the Rams decided to do. They decided to cut the guys.
Cutting them. I heard on the radio that they were going to, in Inglewood, build the new stadium 100 feet underground.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's going to be humongous.
I thought that was interesting.
They're going to have to do some excavation there and just build it from the ground. It's going to be humongous.
Yeah.
Probably going to put a parking lot under there or something. Who knows?
It's underground. That's going to be trippy, man.
Well, I mean, it's probably going to start underground. I mean, it's going to go
100
way
feet.
above ground. 100 feet's not that much. It's going to be it's going to be bigger than that. That's where they're going to have to start digging, though.
Yeah.
To make space for everything.
Like now. Start digging now.
And what else do I have? I guess we'll just wrap up our final story real quick with a follow-up on the Calgary Flames in hockey, the Calgary Flames defenseman Dennis Weidman. Remember that guy who ran into the official after getting kind of dazed, and he argued that, I got a concussion and everything like that. Well, the NHL came down with their suspension. They gave him a 20-game suspension for his hit on official Don Henderson. So don't be hitting the Hendersons, all right?
Seriously.
The NHL
20
player
games.
Yeah, well, the NHL Players Association did appeal, and the league upheld the suspension. So they deemed it a worthy suspension. They did not think that it was just some fluke or anything like that because of a concussion. They thought that there was some intent there. And I still can't argue one way or the other based on the camera angles that are available. I can't tell if he was rocked and accidentally ran into the guy or not.
Yeah.
20 games is a lot of cheese to lose if you didn't mean to do it.
Yep.
But I'm not really sure. But I just figured you can go look at the video and make your own determination, everybody.
You popped the guy pretty good.
Popped him pretty good. I think we played pretty good.
Pretty good. Give 110%. Just take one game at a time.
So
anyway,
that's all I got, man. That's the show. We'll do this NBA game that I picked up maybe in the upcoming week or two. It has to do a little bit about Delonte West and players and their money and things like that.
And the money ain't a thing.
So we'll save that one for later, so you can look forward to that on a future Basket Cases episode. But in the meantime, I think we're gonna go ahead and close the show out and say thank you so much for being here. As always, it's nice to have the ears and the constructive criticism and the interaction we get from you guys out there. It's much appreciated. Please tell your friends to listen to the show and review us on iTunes and all those good things. Hit us up on social media and email. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Remember.
Yep. You are just a basket case. And I'm not wearing socks.
In case you were wondering. Thanks, guys. See you next week.